Yeah, 316. Got game and pulled out his own Atari. I said sorry, I'ma have to pass like Nash to Amari. Tiger up early on a Sunday, sinking birdies while the pigskin spinning through the air, taking birdie. It's a TD, it's a TKO, a home run, it's a hat trick. Ain't no way to be an all-star without practice. So if you down to sacrifice your life for a draft pick, it's a pretty sweet position you can live in if you have some things in the air. If you got game, wiggle like you just don't care. If you got game, playing like you got no fit, and you got game. If you came here to win, you got game.
And welcome to We Talk Raw here on rBeatz Network. And today, whenever I'm hosting this show, I'm always talking about people or to people that help business people and help people in their personal lives overcome things, distractions, obstacles, whatever it takes to get to where they're going. And it doesn't get any more serious or of an obstacle. Obstacle, such a small word for this, but there are people with addictions, and I've seen so many great changes in people, but none probably like this man I have here before me today. Jamie Weatherly is the author of UnLoaded, and we're going to talk about his book and his crazy, fun, crazy, wicked life at the same time. And I got to know this guy a little bit ago, and I wanted to make sure you people met him as well, because this story will inspire you, and the story will change your life, and it'll be the leverage that you need. So welcome to the show, Jamie.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That's always humbling. I'm glad I'm on the good side of once a bad story at times.
You definitely are. And, it's when we're going to talk about leverage today, but a lot of people don't get leverage until they hit that bottom.
Right.
And they think it's rock bottom. And actually, there's a few rock bottoms below that could be even worse. And some haven't made it, because of that. But let's talk about, even before, let's talk about who you were before the addiction. Who was Jamie before that addiction?
I think I don't know who Jamie was before the addiction. And that was one of my biggest enemies, was my refusal to have an identity. I tell people there's nothing really fancy to my story, that I don't have the stereotypical, I'm not Biggie Smalls. I didn't hustle crack rock to feed, get money for my sister's food. And I'm not from a split family. My mom and dad still live in the same house. They've lived for 52 years.
Wow.
You want to talk about privilege and luck and blah, blah. Genetic lottery of being a white, straight, Christian American male. I was given the world, and for some reason, I just wasn't happy with it. I had a habit of forming and shaping my personalities based on different social circles that I would find myself in. And people had spoke about, later on in life, you hear about people pleasing. I never thought that's what I was doing. And then in retrospect, I realized running from who I was supposed to be, like looking for who Jamie is, burying when you have your heart pulling you to do something, you have a desire to do something, you feel this is the direction you need to go, but suppressing all that, killing your killing your motivation. And I grew up going to a church group over here and a swim team over here and a school over here and all these different social circles that I would almost what I call my personality resume, where I would say, hey, I'm from Charlotte, or I'm from the Star Mountain neighborhood, or eventually I went to college in Baltimore, I'm from the Carolinas. And people would tell me what their expectations were of me based on, their stereotypes, their things that they've seen on TV.
The labels they put on you, right.
And I would agree with them. And it was easy for me because now I didn't have to work on myself. If you wanted the dumb hick, I'd be the dumb hick. If you wanted... Because I went to a public school in the south part of Charlotte, but I'm hanging out with some private school kids, I'll be that thug for you. I'll be that bad guy and that outlaw, and it was easy for me because I didn't have to explore who I was. But I also knew it was easy for the crowd that I was with because they didn't have to try to figure me out. Like, I was your coloring book. Like, this is who Jamie is. All right, let's go.
That's such a great way to put that. And, I see that with social media even. with these kids today. I mean, and that's not a crack on that generation. I love the new generations, but there are so many that are lost, especially through the pandemic.
Yeah.
And there became identity crisis, and we'll even cover that more later.
Rebels without a cause.
Yeah, exactly.
Just wanting to be angry.
I've seen people. I know people, younger people, that they would watch somebody on TV who was diagnosed with a mental illness, and they would become that mental illness, or just it was like an attention thing. When mental illness is a serious thing.
Yes.
Mental disorders are not
Yes.
even mental illness, but they're a serious thing. And to emulate that, I've seen that. I remember one where there was this woman who she collected rocks in her house, and just that was what she did. So that person watching it started collecting rocks, and so I think it's not just the social circles; it's the social media circles.
Yeah.
It's the media circles. The things that they see on TV that label them, what you're supposed to look like and what you're supposed to act like, and they kind of drift towards that. You just saying that just hits home with you didn't really know who you are, and we don't. It's like it's so easy not to know instead of dig to find. Right?
Yeah, and I don't mean like fit inside that. This is the shell of who I'm supposed to be. You know what I mean? This is what my father did. This is what my mom did. So, I'm going to stay safe and go this route. Be who you're supposed to be.
Right.
And we know what that means. And I think as you get older, you realize it too. That it's like,
it's in you.
I might have
It's
missed
not
an
in them.
opportunity. I might have done, and before you know it, years are going by. And that's, you got to let that out. And that's, a lot of what I talk about, with the book specifically, and also when I get the opportunity to speak to younger people.
Well,
Go for it.
Hold up the book. Let's talk about the title. I want you to give them the full title.
UnLoaded, From Addiction, Self-Destruction to Purpose.
He's on. There he is.
And not to jump ahead or anything, but very long story that I won't go into full detail. This wasn't the original plan. I wanted to write a book, and this is what was pulled out of me by a very good team, Spark Publications. They're local to Charlotte. They helped me write a book that had purpose. And I had to go, it was a procedure in itself, going back mentally and emotionally into some dark emotions and some dark feelings and some dark times to be able to bleed that out on paper.
Yeah, when you are, like you said, you're going into that. That's a really dark. It can be a very wicked place that you have to revisit, and it takes a person that becomes stronger than they think. I think I saw this. I think I saw this in Wall Street when Charlie Sheen is arrested for conspiring with Gordon Gekko. There's a guy that is in the office there, and he tells him as he's about to be arrested, he said, "When a man looks into the abyss, if he looks, he sees who he really is."
Yeah.
And that's, so you come out of that, you become, you come out of it who you really are.
Right.
So what led you down the road to addiction? What did
As
rock
I've
bottom
learned
look
more
like
and
for
more
you?
about it and more about myself and speaking with others, the addiction and I love to drink. I love to drink to the point that when I tell people towards the end of my active addiction and drinking how much I was drinking, I myself don't even know how I was functioning. I mean, from time up to the time I would go to bed, and then also just any drugs that I could find or were offered to me. But I was functioning. I kept a job and I paid my bills and I had a car. And what led me, as I've turned to find out on this spiritual journey, was that whole thing about not knowing who I was. And I mentioned it in the book specifically about, the hole in your soul. And instead of filling it with my dreams and with the things that I want to see my name up in lights, these wonderful dreams, instead of doing that, I would fill it with self-sabotage and abuse and destruction in the form of drugs and alcohol. And even when it stops being fun, I was like 19 or 20 when I knew I was out of control.
Oh, wow.
I knew at that point, I wasn't ready to do anything about it. And I thought for sure, I was going to snap out of it and something was miraculously going to fix itself. But I knew then that I was not normal when it came to partying. And that's how I dealt with it. And that's how I hid it. And even when it wasn't fun anymore, like I had to consume just to get through the day, it was predictable and I could control it. And I knew how those emotions felt. And I knew when it was numb, and I knew what I was going to do. And there was nothing to worry about, because I was in complete control of myself, because I was numbing myself, and I was choosing, your social quality, your circle begins to degrade as well. And it's like you go from hanging out with people you love and have interest with to, oh, you don't have any other friends either. Let's bond over this, and us against the world type of thing.
And it pulls you down from, one of the things we talk on this show, and I talk on the music show that I do, is about the dreams. And that's one of the biggest things that I've seen. There are obviously some rock stars who have functioned with that, but I've seen it take down so many people. They lose their careers. And I saw an interview with Nate Bargatze, and who's a comedian that's, drawing crazy crowds now. And he said the first decision he had to make was that he knew when he drank, he didn't drink like other people. Mm-hmm. When he was at parties, it was different for him. So he knew if he was going to get there that he had to change that, and he had to give that up. And it was, a pretty calm interview. Just, I had to give that up. But knowing the people that I've known, and, knowing you and talking to you, I know that was just not, he just gave that up.
Oh, yeah.
Went on the dark side of that, the work that had to be involved, and the yelling and screaming back and forth. You don't know that backstory, but you do.
You get to a point where you have no choice. And like what they say, rock bottom, it's different for everybody. There's a rock bottom for one person might be a scratch on their arm, and a rock bottom for somebody might be they're locked up for vehicular manslaughter for driving, but when you get it, you get it. Yeah. When you hit it, you hit it. And me personally, I was in a series of situations where I couldn't stay out of trouble. I would get in trouble for, when I was younger, even before this book in sobriety, there were things that I would kind of laugh at. But now I realize exactly how serious they were, like life-threatening events that were caused by me that could threaten the lives of others, threaten my own life.
Not just you, but the lives of others. Pretty important there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, arson isn't a joke.
Yeah.
That was one of the big ones. But even that, I was 20 years old when I did that. So I didn't get sober till I was 29. I knew I had a problem, but I wasn't willing to do anything. But when I got to the point where relationships weren't working, I'm very fortunate I never lost the love of my family, but they knew not to call me before noon. You know what I mean? Yeah, and if there was something emotional in the family, it was make sure Jamie's okay, because I would use anything as an excuse. I almost slept through Christmas one year. My dad had to come and find me. I got to a point where I couldn't stay out of trouble, where I was getting arrested. And then came, you're going to be getting drug tested. And I'm like, I can't fake this. I can fake the smiles. I can go into work like it's 4th of July, spring break, Mardi Gras, put on a blank face. Nobody knows what's going on in here and perform my duties. But I can't fake random government-issued drug tests. And that's when the idea of having to clean up blew my mind. It blew my mind. And luckily, I was going through the court system, and I was at a treatment center. And I wasn't being honest at the treatment center. It was an outpatient treatment center, which you take an assessment when you go in. And if you have, I don't want to say common sense, if you can get the results from those assessments that you want to get. If you want help, you're going to be honest. If you want minimal, if you want dismissed, you can manipulate those things. And I was borderline when I did my assessment. The second time, I went to the same recovery center twice, 10 years apart. And they knew that I needed to sit down. And I was in a program, and lo and behold, again, right place, right time, I had a counselor say something to me that shook me to the core, that it was one of those burning bush lightning moments that, I got to do something. Like, I've got to do something.
Why do you think that that people do manipulate the assessments? Do you think it's really just unwillingness, or
You're
is it
not
a
ready.
fear?
You're not ready.
Okay.
And it's one of the hardest things is to be ready. Even
That's
before
when you got to face yourself.
even before the book, I had friends that would come to me about spouses and friends and cousins, or and it's the saddest thing to tell them, like, look them dead in the eye and say, there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it. You can kick him out of your house. You can take away his possessions. You can lock his bank account. But until the time comes that individual is ready, there's nothing you can do about it. Some people never make it, but it's all about when you're ready for that change.
Yeah, even in the music industry, of course, I think of Amy Winehouse immediately. Such a great talent lost, but it just seemed like she was never ready, just like you said. Now, when I met you, you were a chef.
Yes, sir.
I believe executive chef.
Executive
if I'm
chef.
correct. And
Quite a few years.
How did your creative life in the kitchen, mesh with your personal struggles?
Well, my first, I want to say half, I guess, considering how long I was in that industry. The first half, it was great for an active addict. It was very similar to my last year of college, where I wasn't going to classes my last semester, and I was sleeping all day, waking up and going to go find a party. Well, I got into the restaurant industry and was working night shifts, and then you get off and it was party time. And I'm not saying that for 100% of the staff. There's responsible people, but there's always something going on. There's always a 2:00 bar, a karaoke show, a house party.
I was surprised that when I was of course getting to know you with the book part is the and you said it's not everybody, and it's not, because we know great people that don't have the struggles, but there are a lot of people that do have the struggles, and I've seen and with what you're saying here, the seedy side that you wouldn't think is in the food service industry.
I tell people
everything from sexuality,
sex, drugs, and rock and roll without the concerts.
Yeah,
like that. That's it.
Yeah. What do you think brings that in? Is it that it's the variety of people that are hired?
It's the variety of people. It's that there is so many different groups represented on one staff. You got people from every demographic, every age, every race, every background, every motivation for having that job. There's also a lot of stress. There is a lot of stress. And sometimes that stress can be unfriendly. It's a high pressure situation. I will never equate it to being a police officer, a first responder, an emergency surgeon. But for that, a lot of people don't realize how intense it is, how in your face, I need it now. There's no times for please. You're running into each other.
It still might not be done right, even though that person's expectation.
And it's with your coworkers that many times, either no matter what your position is, like, you are elbow to elbow with these people, and at times you want to rip their throat out. And then when the shift's over, everybody goes home. The guests, and they don't realize the production that it went into it. And you've got to make up with this person you've been cussing out with for so long.
Yeah, you
got to give yourself some gratification. Nobody appreciates the hard work we do. Let's get together and just burn it down, man.
Yeah, that's and the not appreciating as generalizing, which we know, because a lot of people do.
Yeah,
I'm one
absolutely.
of them. I love restaurants.
It's a reason
a
reason to have that behavior, though.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
That was one of the things. I've only been completely, I guess, wasted one time in my life, and I was younger, but a lot of people think it was because my aunt died, but that I had just wanted to do it. And that was just the excuse, Mm-hmm. I didn't realize at the time, because you kind of felt it was that way, but it really wasn't. It was just like I knew I wanted to do it, and that just provided that moment. Yeah, provided that moment that at least it might take the heat off of me, because people would, they placate you because you understand he's going through, so and so right now.
When you're in it deep, it's almost like a joke. Like, alcoholics have the worst luck for having bad days, because every single day is a bad day, and that gives you reason. You know what I mean? I got the power bill today. I'm having a bad day. There's a reason. You know what I mean? Just anything and everything is an excuse. And that's what you're not a problem drinker if you have a reason. So you create reasons. And if you have the greatest day ever, you will intentionally screw something up. And that's when I talk about self-sabotage. Like, you create scenarios to push things away from you, to give you reason to legitimize, the destructive behavior you're doing.
Well, let's talk about days, and I don't know if I have this day right. I'm just based on my research. September 29th, 2005. I got it right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that was your pivotal
929.
day.
Yep.
So let's talk about what that made that different than any other day.
I'll say some few disclaimers from the beginning. I got sober working the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I do not live, eat, breathe, and die Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm not an active member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I carry their principles with me. I have a lot of friends that we met and continue. I'm Christian. I believe in God. But there are ways to get sober and to get clean and live a completely different life without those aspects. But some of my story includes those.
Okay.
So, and I also think whether you believe in an entity, Mother Nature,
I'm a
galactic
Christian.
forces, karma, there's something guiding us. I don't care what you call it. And in my experience, in my life, I have been in the right place at the right time, on the good side and the bad, way too many times to say it's coincidence. I'm in this recovery program. It's the second time that I've been through this recovery program here in Charlotte. It's a come and go thing. Like I think you had 4 weeks or 6 weeks. It's not, it starts on this. So your first day might be somebody's last day. You know what I mean? It's an ongoing thing. And I'd been there for a few weeks, and the counselor knew, the second time, the counselor knew very obviously that I was not coming in there sober, and that I was talking and I was getting my papers signed. And then one day she calls me out. I was going through your file and I saw you were here 10 years ago. And this was my moment. And I wish I was still in touch with this lady, because she legitimately saved my life. Her name is Debbie. You were here 10 years ago. What was that situation? I'd gotten kicked out of college for 2 counts of arson. Left my college in a squad car and asked to never return. The dorm, not just that I set something on fire, like I set.
Oh, wow.
Where when I say life-threatening, like late at night when people were asleep, and I can retrospect, it still gives me goosebumps.
I've actually heard of this.
You think, you
situation.
think about parents getting the phone calls
Yeah.
of their children that were just minding their own business. And so I got kicked out of college, lived in I was there the first time because I was going to court. I got put on probation. I had to move home with my mom and dad. The courts wanted me to come here. She's like, all right, well, now you're here again, explain that to me. I said, well, I got put on probation. The courts wanted me to come here. I had to move home with my mom and dad. It was the same thing. And she looked at me and she said, so 10 years of your life has gone by and you're sitting in the same place. And it just shook me. It shook me. It gave me the realization that some people take for granted and some people realize it, that, time is fleeting. And at that point I was 29 years old, so you're talking roughly a third of my life out the window, literally out the window. And it shook me. Like I was sitting there and I remember shaking. Guy beside me grabbed me because he thought I was going to fall out of the chair. And it was the moment where I just realized something's got to change. Something's got to change. So I had the benefit of her having a great day of work that day. Like she nailed it. She had a great day. And I ended up being recommended to a meeting at 10 o'clock. It's called the 10 o'clock group.
Well, we're going to come back in a minute. We're going to talk about
Yes,
this
sir.
meeting, okay?
Yes, sir.
And then we're going to delve into the book. So we're going to take a quick break to hear from our friends and sponsors. When we come back, we're going to continue this particular story with Jamie, and we're going to talk about leverage, but we're going to delve into this book and some of the great advice that he gives that will really affect you. So we'll see you in a few moments.
Today, we are proud to present the latest addition to the rBeatz trending show, Greasy Keys. Take it away, Greasy.
Hey, thanks so much, Annalise. I'm thrilled to be here and look forward to the show.
Thank you so much, Greasy. And welcome back to this week's segment of What's Trending Now on rBeatz Radio, Media, and Streaming Network. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And now let's get started with our upcoming local, national, and international concerts, starting off with Billy Idol, who's performing with Joan Jett and the Blackhearts at Madison Square Garden on Wednesday, August 20th. Doors open at 7 p.m. You can get your tickets at Ticketmaster.com. Greasy, ever been to Madison Square Garden?
You know, Annalisa, I haven't had the pleasure to play there yet, but one of these days, it's one of my dreams.
We're going to manifest that right
Yes.
here in rBeatz. Superstar Tate McRae is headed on her Miss Possessive tour and is headed to both Charlotte's Spectrum Center on Friday, October 24th and Raleigh Lenovo Center on Saturday, October 25th. Doors open at 7 p.m. You can get your tickets at Ticketmaster.com. Greasy, ever been to Raleigh before?
Oh, yeah. I love our little state capital. Played there many times over the years and seen a lot of great shows. Love Raleigh.
Go see him when he's performing next. Calling all fellow monsters, Lady Gaga is headed on tour for the Mayhem Ball, performing at the Kia Forum in Inglewood, California on Fridays and Saturday, August 1st and 2nd. Doors open at 8 p.m. You can get your tickets at Ticketmaster.com. Greasy, what's your favorite Lady Gaga song?
You know, I got to say, Born This Way has always been a big favorite of mine. I've always been a little monster for Lady Gaga.
Yeah, we love Lady Gaga here at rBeatz. And this is Annalise Pearl and Greasy Keys bringing you all the new details on the latest trending water cooler conversations. Stay on top of the rBeatz app and rBeatz.com. Always bring you the best independent, national, and international music artists. Constant influences are right here on the rBeatz app. You all know the drill. Now let's get started with this week's DJ World Beats top trending songs. Spinning now on 25/8 366, our global pop stream, DJ World Beats brings you Maison by Emilio Piano featuring Lucy, Raymond Parados by Maria Barsar and Paulo Leandro, Spingal by Luan and Lamanio. Trending now on rBeatz Radio, our house and EDM stream, we have The Way I Love You by Georgia Smith, Open Your Eyes by Pascal, Freaking You Out by Robin Schultz, Nervo, and Copy. And coming up on We Global Radio, our hip hop and R&B stream, we have I'll Be Good by Jay Don, Kissing in Public by Dustin Conrad, Where You Gonna Go by Eric Robertson and BJ the Chicago Kid, So Beautiful by Johnny Venus and Black, Heavyweight by Junior Chow featuring Quavo, New Louis Vuitton featuring Khan and Yodom with Shy Boy Toby and Whalem. And we closing out on USA Heroes, our classic rock and country station, we have Getting Gone by Ernest featuring Snoop Dogg, All the Way by Big X The Pulp featuring Bailey Zimmerman, FUFN Acoustic by Jade, and the Typo House featuring Jethro Tull. And stepping up on the main stage with Spotify playlist Only Bangers Hits Different, we have Holding Back the Years by Paolo. That concludes this week's countdown. And be sure to check out our social media sensation show, What's Trending Now, where we've got Greasy Keys as our new addition. And be sure to check out rBeatz TV on YouTube and rBeatz.com. Thanks for watching. Take it away, Greasy.
And we're back with Jamie Weatherly in the studio talking about his book, UnLoaded, and his story. So, Jamie, was there a moment when you realized you were meant for more?
With my life?
Yes.
I knew a direction. I knew maybe not what the end of the race was going to be, but I knew I was supposed to be a little bit better. And I don't mean that like ego driven as far as better than my peers, but I was an overachiever from early elementary school, even up when I'm in college, you know, causing a lot of trouble. Like I could draw a crowd. I could say things. I could evoke emotion. I had won writing awards in middle school, like Cash, which was cool, like Charlotte and North Carolina centered stuff, and had friends that had told me, you need to write a book, you know, you need to, you can express yourself in ways, even with social media today, I can type something out and people, that's exactly what I was thinking, I just don't have the way to say it the way that you say it. So I was given a voice and I was given a way to express myself that resonate with people. But I just never chose to explore an avenue, you know, of how to reach people. Nor did I feel like I had a reason to reach people. You know, it's something that even my publisher and I joke about, like, I had to put myself through what I put myself through to come out on the other side. And again, whatever you believe in, there's a plan here that got me through. So now it's one of my favorite quotes right now. It's one thing to go through hell and come back, but it's another to return and get those that are still there.
Yeah, and I found this with people that I would say have a true calling to what they do. They're given these gifts. They develop these gifts. Most of them, some of them get complacent and don't develop the gifts. But then when they're going through this, and I found this in my own life, there's so many things that just pull you away, that you let pull you away, but just are the weirdest, craziest obstacles that you fall into. Because everybody's tempted by something. But it seems like the people that are really called to do something are overly tempted. And I've heard people say it's the universe testing you, or it's God testing you, or it's the devil trying to block your path, whatever it is with the different people that I've talked to. But it is a real thing. I mean, here you are on that roll, you want to do that. But then it's almost like the hope is gone from that when you fall into something like this.
There's a fear of success, which sounds weird, and there's some people that don't need to read my book. You know what I mean? And for them, bless you. I am happy that those free-spirited, unafraid people exist. And then there's some that, like I said, I've put some stuff into words that it hits. And I was very afraid of succeeding, because then people are going to want more.
And they will.
And I was afraid of succeeding because I didn't want to fail. So I wouldn't even put forth the effort.
Well, on this first step of success, which is actually getting that story on page. Anybody that's ever written a book, anybody knows the challenges that you do this. This is why so many people haven't written a book, even in self-publishing. There's a lot out there, but even with self-publishing, there are people that still haven't written because of the discipline of it and the challenge of it. And you went from that to being able to put this on page. So how did that feel?
It was amazing. And it's a heck of a process. Like I said, this wasn't plan A. This was what this book, there was a plan A that had one or two. I guess I made a mistake and put some inspirational, hopeful things in that original manuscript. Turned it over to my Spark Publications and totally shredded it, except for those 2 or 3 sentences, and said, I'm not going to touch that other one. It's your choice. I'm the guy, I'm the writer. If you want to publish this book, you're going to do it somewhere else. But if you want to publish something based on this, we can change lives.
Yeah.
And that's when it was one of those, all right, I'm about to chase one of those squirrels. I'm about to go find myself being busy and make something up, because now I'm doing this. All right, what would Kurt Cobain do? Like, I'm an artist and you're not respecting. She called me in for a meeting, and it's like, don't make a decision right now.
So many times.
Go sit on it in a week and tell me your decision. And I'm thinking, like, how dare this person tell me the direction I'm going to take? I wrote this down. This is my life. I can reach out. I mean, what talks? I thought it was a collection of pulp perversion party war stories that I thought would be. And I looking at it now, it was nothing but inside jokes and silly ways to cuss, really, was what it was. And thought about it, and, it comes, thought about it, meditated, talked to who I need to talk to. And I was drawn to this person, again, not by chance. I have 2 friends. One of them published with her. One of them used her as kind of consultation. But they put books out that skyrocketed their careers.
She sounds like a great guide.
And she is, because she puts her name on it, and she wants you to succeed, and she does purpose-driven projects. And when we laid it out, it was just like, this is a brand new direction that I wasn't even planning on, but now for strangers to seek me out in emails and to let me know, and I'll say this, and I always have to say this no matter what I'm talking about, because this could take us in any other direction, but one of my most favorite compliments that I got was from a friend of mine who bought the book to support me, as a good friend should, because if you have friends doing stuff like this, you need to buy their stuff.
Believe in that, yes.
He has never had a drink of alcohol in his life. He's never done any drugs. read the book, because this is his friend, read it, and he called me and he sent me a message, and it was, this is not just for addicts and alcoholics. This is for people. This is for people. My story just happened to include alcoholic, and this is for people that need to get up and live. Like, this is about being the best version of you. And to have somebody, and this was early on, one of my first honest come to reviews, and to have somebody tell me that brought tears to me, like throughout the whole process. We're talking about the process of how it was done. Once it was complete and I started getting feedback, it started growing even more.
I'm about to take that to a depth that probably will even be part of what you say next. But because we talked about, you find this publisher here, you're writing a book that's memoir kind of, and you get with this publisher who understands, the value of who you need to go after, and they're saying, okay, so you write this book, but now you blend this memoir with self-help. So who were you really writing for, and what do you think they'll walk away with?
And I love this evolution of this too. My original thing, my pulp perversion, it was like kind of Anthony Bourdain, before he became famous. His first book was just this greasy, dirty stories of his life, and that's what I thought I was going to do. And she, being experienced, part of this meeting, who is this for? Right. What is your target audience? And, I'm Jamie Weatherly. My target audience is the world. Like, you don't know, I'm surprised you didn't seek me out. My target audience is everybody. And she's like, that's not the way it works.
Yeah.
And we redid this and I really wrote about 3 or 4 books when it comes down to it. And that's not unique to me. I heard that's the process. And by the time I read the final one, like, I was like, I wrote this. Like, I wrote this. Like, this is pretty cool. Right. And then, so my target audience, like, we made it have a certain look. We made the book have a certain look. And it's true to who I am. It's dark and gritty, and you got, I'm a tough guy. I got my tattoos showing. I got my cross showing. It's that my ego loves you for saying that. It's true to me. So what do we want to do with this? We need people that are on the verge of addiction. We need high school kids to read this. We need people that are struggling. Maybe they do. That 19, 20-year-old Jamie that knew he had a problem but wasn't ready yet. So we're targeting this audience. And we go out and we're pushing it. And I'm doing shows and I'm doing book fairs and I'm doing public appearances. I carry them in my bag. I run across a stranger and we start talking. I'll pull one out. There's websites, there's stores. I'm always directing people. Then I start getting feedback like I did from my friend that, this is for people. And then I've got 70-year-old ladies reading it and get in touch with me. I got book clubs at churches reading it for the inspiration. And
they have those, what are those organizations they have in churches? Celebrate Recovery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be perfect for stuff like that.
I did a book club at a little tea house, in Waxhaw. And what I was going for came to fruition without me trying, because I stayed true to who I am. Because my target audience all of a sudden became the world. And I'm not saying I'm selling multiple copies in Japan right now, but I'm just saying the genre and opening it up and seeing that this is my personal story. And there's not many war stories in there. There's some things that I had to say to explain where I was.
Yeah.
But it's more about, this is the motivation behind these thoughts. These are the mask that I'm putting on that a lot of us are familiar with. These are the situations I would run from and hide from, and these are the pains that I would cause myself. I love it. I quoted in there too. Most people know the movie, but the book Fight Club. It's like we are working jobs we don't like to get money we don't need, to spend on stuff we don't like, to impress people we don't even know.
Yeah,
and that's the cycle that a lot of us find ourselves in.
Yeah, and so with that. And we'll talk, we could, if we get time, we'll talk about this, but it's not just having the information. It's not just writing it. It's getting it out and getting it noticed. Of course, your look helps. The tattoo helps. The cover, it shows who you really are. It draws a lot of people in. But And of course, we both have had involvement, with professional wrestling. And one of the things we see there is those guys are branded to the hilt. You know, they like we said, John Cena comes out there in his hat and his
Sweatbands,
T-shirt. They're selling that stuff at the merch table. But you have to not just be the purveyor of your story, but you're the entrepreneur that also has to come along with your publisher, or if you're self-published, even more, and get that book out there.
You're the authorpreneur.
You got to draw that attention to it. People have short attention spans.
Yeah.
You're trying to reach the people we just talked about. When I said, did you ever have a moment where you knew you were made for more? I knew you did, because of the calling you have right now. But then you go through the stuff you go through, all the distractions to pull you from that, to almost pull you in a different way of the calling, to where now you're in front of the people that you need to be in front of, that need you. It's not about trying to reach the world. I deal with that with artists so many times. We just want to reach everybody. Where you're not, because you're subjective. Music is subjective.
Yes.
Books are subjective. Not everybody's going to like you. You're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. But there are people that are going to be drawn to you, and they're going to be drawn more to you if you're not just standing there waiting for them to come. But you're saying, hey, I'm here. This is what I've written about. Somebody can use this. It can change somebody's life. The people are going to hear about that, and they come to it. But you have to be the one that's thinking that way. It's not just your publisher. It's not just your record label. It's you as the artist. It's you as the author. It's you as the actor, whatever it is. You're brought in because of that. You're the one that, it's like you're put on this not really pedestal. It's more like a little hill, so that people can see you're this light. They get drawn to that.
Yeah.
And so it becomes that way. And you have to be genuine and authentic with it. So let me ask you this from a genuine standpoint. What was the hardest part for you to write, maybe that brought the most healing for you?
The lies that I would tell myself, the way that I didn't realize I was as much of a people person as I thought I was. There's not a lot of depth of, like I said, the war stories. And some of them, don't get me wrong, there's some that are comical. There are some stories that would make a good stand-up routine, and coincidences that this happened. But it was also, so I started this project about 3 years ago. So about somewhere 18, I can't do the math right now, 20 years removed from those arson charges. It was more than that. It had to be 20 or so years. I still use that as comedy.
I still can't believe you're that guy that I heard about.
Like, I thought it was funny. And I would hide behind that. And going through this, I held that with me for so long, and writing about that and thinking about, what could have happened. What could have happened? My DUI that was in Memphis. My DUI was in Memphis. Arson was in Baltimore. I used to play this game within recovery too. Name a state, name a state, and I'll tell you what happened. My DUI was in Tennessee and Memphis, and it was a complete blackout, where off of a lot of pills. And I came to, still going down the road, and the front half of my car was gone. And I had this little sports car, and I was just scooting down the road with sparks shining, and got out and thought I could get the spare on somehow and drive away. And of course, the people that showed up needed to show up did. But it put me, I could have just ran into a family of four going to the beach or something. You know what I mean? The hardest thing, and that's what I say when it was dark, was it had to be honest. I couldn't gloss over these things. Like, I had to go into that place that almost, and my sobriety is very strong. People, it can come and go, and thoughts and intrusive thoughts. I was never in danger. I wouldn't put myself in danger. But it was revisiting, not the physical taste, but I mean the attitude, and that I don't care, that the world is against me. Like, this I am destined to die. I am destined for failure. I will destroy everything around me. And to get that on paper, like, that was hard. That was a hard event.
Yeah, it was a deep event. Well, putting that on paper, you get it out, then you get attention for it. I mean, I've seen a lot of your social media where you're getting attention. One of my favorite things is is when the magazine awards. So how did it feel to be named Charlotte Magazine's? They call them the Bob Awards, don't they? Best author.
Best author.
After all you've been through, how did that feel?
Well, I tell you, and I always, I want to be humble. It's not in my nature to be humble. My wife kids me, and she keeps me grounded. You know, you need to feed the dogs. Super author. You know, I won the Reader's Choice. It's in a sense a glorified popularity contest. You know, I solicited votes. Didn't pay or anything, but I would have to post about it on social media. You bet my mom and dad voted every day.
It's not just counted on just your votes, though.
And on the same time, controlled ego says they voted for you because they believed in what you did.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know what the tally was. I don't know if I was the only one that got votes, but I mean, I'm thinking and hoping there are people out there that I don't know that somehow got the book. Because I got the book. It's available around town.
Yeah.
It's available 3 or 4 different spots in
of course,
Charlotte.
you see stuff on social media, too.
And
because your social media is out there.
And it's Amazon, you know,
yeah.
I mean, I didn't even want to say that one out loud, but people ask me, can I get it online? I'm jamieweatherly.com. Well, can I get it from this website or this website? And independent artists, as you know, if you buy it from me, I mean, we're not in it for the money, but
you make more.
I make a lot more if you buy it from me, and you might have to pay $2 more. But I don't have a rocket ship that goes to the moon. Like I've got a humble little family of 4 that, you know, I got to feed the dogs. So if you need it and you can get it from somebody's turned it into Goodwill and you can get it for $4, or if your coworker gives it to you,
whatever changes your life,
it's the message.
Yeah.
At this point, I realize
support the artist, but yeah, it's definitely a life-changing story. And let's talk about that then. Let's say, what would you say to someone listening who is in a very dark place right now?
It's not
from
too
your
late.
mouth.
It's not too late, and it's not over. Life is beautiful. It's unbelievable what's possible. It's unfathomable for an addict or an alcoholic to imagine. They say going through life without using, and you don't have to, and it's so cliche, and it's one of those recovery things. I'm almost 20 years sober, but the only thing I have to worry about is going to bed tonight, because I don't know about tomorrow, and I don't know about next week, and for the most part, to my knowledge, we're all mortal. You know, I've got family and friends that are going to come and go in and out of my life, but also pass on to whatever it is you know what I mean? Like, these are things that are going to happen. Stop wasting your life. Don't be the Jamie that sat in the same chair for 10 years. 10 years is gone.
Yeah, because you were changed just so you can speak to those people. I know with me, I didn't have an addiction per se, but I went through an anxiety period. It's well known about me. It's part of my story. But I went through an anxiety period years ago where it got so bad and so dark and I couldn't go anywhere that I wanted to go live in a retirement home because they could bring me food. I wouldn't have to go anywhere. I wouldn't have to drive anywhere. It was like that dark. And then you get on the other side of it. Well, now, doing all the stuff that you and I do, there's this other side, right? You had all that darkness, but the hope is this other side really exists, and it feels way different.
That's unbelievable.
But when I first came out of that and I gained all the stuff that I've gained now, just like you probably run into this, it seemed like everybody that I felt was trying to pull me out over here, now they're in it.
Yeah.
And so there's nobody to celebrate your stuff, it feels like. I mean, there are, but when you look at that circle, all of a sudden they're going through it, and you got to be the light for them. And you realize that you were changed because these other people need
It's a responsibility.
Light. Yeah.
It's I call it the Spider-Man quote, with great power comes great responsibility. And there's quotes from other books and there's other movies and pop culture that say, but I mean, it's basically, if you've done it, and I don't mean like if you have survived a struggle, it's your duty to return that when you see somebody else going through the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's what life is, man. You've got to help each other. It's all about your fellow man, like it doesn't matter all these things that we pretend matters. You survived. And I really think when we, go back and forth about this, like when it was presented to me, this is the book you need to write. Like, this is what I was supposed to do. Like, this is what I'm supposed to do. At the time, I was, 16, 17 years sober. It was like, I've been sitting on that. On one hand, I've been sitting on that, but on the other hand, I also haven't been true to, I'm going to get sober. So my life, things were good, but they were complacent. And like what you said earlier, I'm made for more.
Yeah, you were called for that. There was when I came out of everything, and I was trying to think those same things. It's amazing how the people come in our lives are the right thing hits us at the right time. I was watching I think it was a rerun of West Wing or something like that, where this alcoholic is talking to this guy who was, had gone through all of that, and he's telling him a story, and he's saying that there was this guy who fell in a hole. I don't know if you heard this, but he said he fell in a hole. A doctor came by. He said, "Doctor, I've fallen in this hole. Can you help me out?" He said, "Well, I'll go get my equipment. See what I can do. Write a prescription." And then the lawyer comes by and he says, "Can you help me out? I'm in this hole." He says, "Well, maybe I'll go see if I can put something together on a case, and I'll it's that kind of thing." A preacher comes by. "Can you help me get out of this hole?" And he says, "Well, I'll pray for you that you get out of the hole." Finally, the next guy walks by and he jumps in the hole. And he said, "Are you crazy? I'm in here and I'm stuck down here and you jump in the hole?" He said, "Yeah, but I've been here before and I know the way out." And that hit me. It's like there are so many people with anxiety or that dealing with, alcoholism or drug addiction, and you've been there and you know the way out, and you're able to lead these people, and you're conscious of the fact that they need to listen. And we get the word out, through media. You get it out through social media. So important. And you talk about living beyond your dreams, but that's such a powerful, super powerful thing for the people that will listen and understand, hey, I'm just here to help.
Yeah.
I'm here to lead you out. It's not going to always come in the form that they think it is. It can be this tattooed muscle guy, merched up like the WWE superstar, but you got this story. And that gets attention.
It has a lot to do with the willingness, too, and it was part of why my first very weak attempt at 20 years old to try to change, I looked at everybody and found a reason not to listen to them. And we might be sitting in a room that has this man over here has 20 years of sobriety, but, his car isn't cool. And this lady over here might have 20 years of sobriety, but her skin color is different than mine, and she rode the bus to get here, and all these things. And it's part of what I came to realize with people talking to me and what I try to exploit from my own book. Like, even though the cover's cool, you know what? It has nothing to do with this. Like, listen to the words and listen to the message. And
know the way out.
I might have given you this story, but here's the underlining emotion. Like, the emotion is what links us together, not what we drove to the meeting in.
Dude, thank you so much for being here today.
No, I appreciate you having me, man.
We've been trying to get you on for a little bit. Yeah, we finally made this work, and I'm so glad this happened, and I want this to help a lot of people. So I'll put it on social. You put it on social.
Sir.
Let's get the word out. And thank you guys for tuning in here at rBeatz. It's been a powerful day today and powerful words spoken. Let your friends know. You might be helping somebody before they even get started, or you might be helping somebody that's in the middle of it. But thank you for all you do. Thank you for staying loyal, and we'll see you next time. Much love.
Yeah, 316. Got game and pulled out his own Atari. I said sorry, I'ma have to pass like Nash to Amari. Tiger up early on a Sunday, sinking birdies while the pigskin spinning through the air, tighten birdie. It's a TD, it's a TKO, a home run, it's a hat trick. Ain't no way to be an all-star without practice. So if you down to sacrifice your life for a draft pick, it's a pretty sweet position you can live in if you have them things in the air.